The piercing wail of the ambulance shattered the early morning calm in Lagos, its siren echoing off the glass-fronted skyscrapers that dotted the cityscape. Inside, a frail old woman clutched her chest, gasping for air as the vehicle weaved through the congested streets. Her silk headwrap, usually pristine and perfectly arranged, lay askew, revealing wisps of silver hair. The paramedics worked frantically to stabilize her, their movements precise yet urgent. "Tell them," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the ambulance's rumble. "My time is near, but my wealth must go to the one who truly deserves it." Her words, though cryptic, carried the weight of a lifetime's wisdom. The young paramedic leaned closer, struck by the intensity in the old woman's eyes that seemed to see far beyond the confines of the ambulance, into a future only she could envision. 6 months earlier. The marketplace hummed with life, a vibrant tapestry of colors, sounds, and scents that epitomized Lagos's beating heart. Amid the chaos, seated at the edge of a busy intersection, a frail elderly woman with cloudy eyes huddled under a faded umbrella. Her threadbare wrapper, once a proud display of traditional patterns, now told stories of hardship and neglect. The dull scarf wrapped around her head cast shadows across her weathered face as she called out weakly to passers-by. "Please," she pleaded, her voice trembling like leaves in the Harmattan wind, "I need someone to help me cross the road." The morning sun cast long shadows across the bustling street as traders set up their stalls and office workers hurried to beat the notorious Lagos traffic. Most people swept past her like water around a stone in a stream. Some quickened their pace, casting wary glances her way, another beggar in a city full of them. A few, perhaps prompted by guilt or fleeting compassion, tossed small coins at her feet, their charitable gestures accompanied by muttered complaints about the growing number of street beggars. Yet, the old woman remained steadfast, her sightless gaze scanning the crowd with an intensity that belied her apparent disability. For this was no ordinary beggar, this was Madam Dearest, the reclusive billionaire whose business empire had helped shape modern Nigeria. Her vast holdings stretched across real estate, manufacturing, and oil, built through decades of shrewd decisions and unwavering determination. Known in business circles as the silent hurricane for her ability to transform industries without drawing attention to herself, Madam Dearest had outlived both her husband and children. Now, her immense wealth weighed heavily on her conscience. She had watched from afar as distant relatives and corporate executives circled like vultures, their eyes fixed on her fortune. But Madam Dearest had different plans that required her to see beyond appearances and find someone worthy of her legacy. Over the following months, Madam Dearest orchestrated an elaborate series of tests across Lagos. She appeared as different characters, sometimes a blind beggar needing assistance to cross busy intersections, other times a hungry grandmother seeking food at local bukkas. Each encounter was meticulously documented by her trusted team, who observed from the shadows. The responses she received painted a stark picture of human nature. Some people shooed her away with harsh words, while others ignored her existence entirely. A few offered token assistance, their actions mechanical and devoid of genuine empathy. But occasionally, she encountered souls whose kindness shone like diamonds in the rough. One such encounter occurred at Tafawa Square, where she sat on a warm wooden bench, pretending to be asleep with a basket of roasted groundnuts beside her. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly as a group of teenagers, fresh from school in their pristine uniforms, spotted her vulnerable figure. They approached with the casual cruelty of youth, whispering and snickering among themselves. The leader, a tall boy with a swagger that spoke of privileged upbringing, reached for the groundnuts. "Easy pickings," he smirked, his hand hovering over the basket. "Leave her alone, Taiwo," another boy interjected, his voice carrying notes of uncertainty and conscience. "She's just an old woman trying to make a living." Taiwo scoffed, his expression hardening. "Old or not, she's probably blind and won't even notice. Besides, My father says these street vendors don't pay taxes, they are parasites. The situation might have escalated further if not for Ifeoma's intervention. She had been selling plantain chips nearby, her small store positioned under a weathered umbrella. Despite the day's poor sales, her face retained its gentle determination. "Hey," she called out, her voice firm but not unkind. "What are you doing to that, Mama?" The boys scattered like pigeons before a car, their bravado evaporating in the face of adult authority. Taiwo lingered for a moment, shooting Ifeoma a defiant glare before rejoining his friends. Ifeoma approached Madam Dearest with gentle concern, touching her shoulder with the reverence typically reserved for elders. "Mama, are you okay? Did those boys disturb you?" she asked, her voice warm with genuine worry. Madam Dearest stirred, playing her role perfectly as she feigned confusion. "Water, please," she mumbled, a performance drawing from decades of observing human nature. Without hesitation, Ifeoma retrieved a bottle of water from her store, uncapped it, and helped the old woman drink. She remained by Madam Dearest's side, sacrificing precious selling time to ensure the elder's comfort. From his concealed position nearby, Madam Dearest's driver recorded every detail of the interaction, adding it to an already substantial file. The true test came during the rainy season, when Lagos's streets transformed into treacherous rivers and the sky seemed determined to drown the city. Madam Dearest positioned herself near a flooded bus terminal, her slight frame shivering in the downpour. The evening rush hour brought waves of commuters, each focused solely on reaching dry shelter. Lightning split the sky, followed by thunder that shook the ground. Most passengers rushed past, some cursing as they splashed through puddles. A few shot irritated glances at the old woman who seemed determined to block their path to the buses. Then came Ifeoma, struggling under the weight of a heavy sack containing tomorrow's market goods. Despite her own difficulties, she paused upon seeing the drenched elderly woman. Without hesitation, she unwrapped her head tie, her only protection against the rain, and draped it over Madam Dearest's shoulders. "Mama, this rain is too heavy for anyone to be out alone," Ifeoma said, guiding them both toward shelter. "Let me help you find somewhere dry to wait it out." Under a small shop awning, they huddled together, watching sheets of rain transform the street into a chocolate-colored river. Ifeoma shared her own story, not out of self-pity but as a way to connect with her elderly companion. "Life hasn't been easy since Papa died," she confided, her voice carrying both strength and vulnerability. "My younger brother, Chibik, is brilliant, top of his class. I've been saving every kobo I can to keep him in school. Sometimes I don't eat lunch so I can add a little more to his school fees fund." She smiled, a genuine expression that lit up her face despite the gloomy weather. "But we manage. God always makes a way." Madam Dearest listened intently, noting how Ifeoma spoke of her struggles without bitterness or resentment. Here was someone who understood that true wealth lay not in bank accounts but in the capacity to remain generous despite personal hardship. The transformation began subtly. A well-dressed man in a crisp suit started visiting Ifeoma's market store regularly, purchasing her entire daily stock at premium prices. At first, she accepted this stroke of good fortune with grateful suspicion, but curiosity eventually got the better of her. "Sir," she asked one day, gathering her courage, "why are you helping me? Who sent you?" The man, Mr. Adelik, one of Madam Dearest's most trusted advisors, smiled mysteriously. "Let's just say that kindness, even when offered without expectation of reward, has a way of coming back to us." Meanwhile, stories began circulating through the market about a mysterious blind woman who appeared at different locations, testing people's hearts. Some claimed she was a spirit, others insisted she was an angel in disguise. Ifeoma listened to these tales with mild interest, never suspecting her own role in the unfolding drama. Then came the invitation, delivered by Mr. Adelik himself, to visit an estate in Banana Island, Lagos's most exclusive neighborhood. Ifeoma's first instinct was to decline, but something in the man's honest expression convinced her to accept. The estate took her breath away. Massive gates opened onto manicured gardens where fountains danced in the sunlight. The mansion itself seemed to touch the sky, its windows gleaming like diamonds. Inside, surrounded by artwork worth more than Ifeoma could earn in several lifetimes, she met Madam Dearest again, but not as the helpless beggar she remembered. Instead, she encountered a regal presence dressed in hand-woven osook, her bearing that of someone accustomed to wielding power. Her eyes, far from cloudy or unfocused, sparkled with sharp intelligence and quiet amusement. "Welcome, Ifeoma," Madam Dearest said, her voice strong and clear. "Please, sit down. We have much to discuss." The weeks that followed tested Ifeoma in ways she never imagined. She moved into a guest suite in Madam Dearest's estate, where her days filled with intensive lessons in business management, corporate finance, and leadership. Evenings brought discussions about philanthropy, social responsibility, and the true meaning of wealth. News of Madam Dearest's choice of heir spread through Lagos's elite circles like wildfire. Relatives emerged from every corner, their protests growing louder with each passing day. Business partners questioned the wisdom of entrusting a vast corporate empire to a former market trader. "This is absurd," declared Chief Johnson, a distant cousin, during a particularly heated family meeting. "She's just a common market girl. What does she know about international business? About oil contracts? About real estate development?" Madam Dearest's response silenced the room. "When I started," she said, her voice quiet but steely, "I was selling peppers in Mile 12 Market. What Ifeoma knows, what some of you have forgotten, is the value of hard work, the importance of humanity, and the power of kindness. These qualities build this empire. These qualities will sustain it." As months passed, Ifeoma proved Madam Dearest's faith well placed. She approached her new role with the same dedication and compassion she had shown as a market trader. Under her guidance, the corporation expanded its charitable initiatives, establishing scholarship programs for underprivileged students and microfinance schemes for small business owners. When Madam Dearest finally passed away, Ifeoma honored her memory by continuing her legacy of secret philanthropy. She could often be found in disguise, visiting markets and bus stops, looking for others whose hearts shone with the same golden light that had caught Madam Dearest's attention. The empire flourished, not just in profits but in purpose. And somewhere, Ifeoma knew, Madam Dearest was smiling, knowing her wealth had found its rightful heir, not through blood or business acumen, but through the purity of a compassionate heart.